right, come on in, have a seat. We're going to have a talk. This is about traveling and or planning to travel with your friends. Long story short, it is a great idea, but it might not be ideal. Yeah, think about it. You with your friends outside exploring a new country, doing different things that you always wanted to do with people that you care about. Sounds amazing. Except that is only a surface level view on you traveling with your friends. The scenario is much more deeper. It goes down into your personality and your goal for when you are abroad. First thing you really need to think about is, do you really know these people? And not just as an acquaintance or a friend of a friend. Do you personally know them and understand them? You know the positive sides and the negative sides. Because if you do not know that, I recommend getting to know them first in the States before you even travel abroad. And I mean that for every person that wants to go on this trip. I don't care if it's your homegirl's homegirl. I don't care if that's her day one. That's not your day one. You need to figure out how well y'all are going to connect. On top of that, you really need to figure out what negative sides each person have on this trip. When we see the internet, and if we take the internet at face value, main issues that come across are the fact that you don't really know who you're traveling with, or you know who you're traveling with, but you don't want to accept the reality that that person has shown you. For example, your friend, you love them to infinity and beyond, but you know they cannot pay their bills on time. You should not be traveling with that person. Or, no, fuck it. No, you shouldn't be traveling with that person at all. Don't even try to put yourself in a predicament where you will have to cover for them. Your safety is going to be the most important thing. I'd rather you go with a group of strangers than for you to go with a friend who has a negative side that can be detrimental to your safety. The analogy I'm going to say is like your parents sending you off by yourself versus your parents sending you off with a sibling who is bad as fuck, right? When you're off by yourself, even though you're around strangers, if anything was to pop off, you're going to go home because you're going to prioritize your family, your friends. You don't owe it to these strangers to keep them safe. Now, you would like to, and you have a heart to, yes, but you know that at the end of the day, your first priority is you. You can keep that in your mind. That is not the same when you bring a sibling. When you have a sibling, not only do you think about yourself, you first got to prioritize their safety, especially if it's a younger sibling, no matter if they don't listen, because at the end of the day, you want to come back home with the both of y'all. Because if you don't come back home with the both of y'all, they're going to blame you. We see it all the time on media. Why didn't you stop this? Why didn't this happen? Oh, you should have been more alert. Y'all weren't friends. Because of that, you are willing to put yourself into more risk to protect that badass sibling when they should not have even been there, right? Because you have that responsibility, you will put yourself in more danger, and as a result, you may or may not come back home. I'm not saying it's the worst case scenario. What I'm saying is, if you can avoid putting yourself through that stress, then you would say just leave that sibling at home. Now, let me tie it back into this traveling. If you know that friend is girl crazy, boy crazy, they don't pay their stuff on time, they're an aggravating drunk, they like to wander off, they always want to spaz and pop off and they want to leave you, and they want you to come find them, hunt them down, this, that, and the third, or they always want to start fights, leave their ass home. I know you love them, but they need to go reflect in that fucking corner and think about it before they even come out, because you're playing by a different set of rules, and depending on where you're going, you might not be able to talk your way out of it. So you really need to sit there and think about your friends in the worst way possible, and think, can you handle that on that trip? And you can go talk to your friend and be like, oh, well, they said they're going to change. Stop. They have not changed their ways for years. If they have not been paying their bills on time for years, or they've been mooching off of people for years, what the fuck makes you think they're going to stop once they get abroad? They're going to do it more so. There's no limit to it now. You need to understand that's how they are. Your goal is not to have them do a turnaround change and a coming to Jesus moment. You need to accept it and make moves for that. And sometimes that just means leaving your friend at home. And if you're like, well, if they can't go, then I won't go. Then I'll tell your ass, stay home. Stay home. Don't go. That's when you start hearing all these terrible ass stories. So I would say you need to plan your trips with the group of people you know are already on the same wavelength as you. If you know you're trying to go out to get fucked, you just need to say that to the whole group. And the group needs to either agree on it, or you need to go find your own type of traveling. If you're like, hey, I want to have an itinerary and I want to explore all the things this place has to offer, say that. And if your friends are like, well, we only want to go clubbing, you might just need to make a solo trip. I know it is scary traveling alone. It can be anxious, nerve-wracking, especially if you're not fully knowledgeable where you're going and the language is completely different than English. I get it. But there are ways for you to stay in safe areas than for you to go out with your friends and be put into some bullshit. There would have been no reason. So yeah, just know actually who you are going with. Know your group if you're not going with a group of strangers. Number 2, know what your group wants. If they're more into the clubbing atmosphere and they want to club for the weekends, then you understand that. Y'all need to be in a consensus on what is going to happen when you are abroad. And that means having the serious talks with each and every person in your group so they can agree or disagree. If they're going to hash it out, you'd rather it be hashed out in the group chat while you're still here in the States and not on a plane traveling. And if you guys can't agree, then I think you need to go separate ways. Find a new tour, find different people. If you have a little bit of money, there are tours, like EF tours do small group tours. And I think they allow strangers to meet up and they can go on the same path, same area. And I think they'll give them their own hotel rooms. So you can still travel without having to travel with your group if you want to. It just probably will cost you more, unfortunately. All right, you had the serious talk. You've done what you're supposed to do. Y'all hashed it out. You feel like everyone's at peace. Everyone's on the same accord, locked in. Good. Next thing I'm going to say is going to be harsh, but you need to go ahead and buy your own lodging, air flights. Do it by yourself. Now, if you know a trusted travel agent, I could say you could have everyone book their travel through that one travel agent. That way, when lodging and flights are booked, you guys could still be sitting close together, but you are not financially tied to anybody in that group. So you're going to buy your own hotel. You're probably going to buy your own flight. You're most likely going to get into a car, or they can register a pickup shuttle in your name or a rental car, so that way all y'all can get from point A to point B. You can do that through a travel agent, but you have to be careful. You got to make sure they are licensed. Yes, travel agents need to have a license. Don't let people tell you otherwise. If they're not licensed, they can run off with your money and you might not see it again. If you think you don't want to go through a travel agent and you're like, oh, I'm fine doing it by myself, then you should do it by yourself. We are in an economy where we cannot afford to lose $1 or to argue with the airlines, hotel people, Expedia, Booking.com, Trip.com, any other third-party travel agents arguing about anything pertaining to the trip because somebody lacked finances. Now, as a broke bitch myself, I can tell you straight up, when I either booked it on my credit card and I already paid for my Airbnb and my flights. That is the minimum that should be done months before you even travel. There should not be, and it's like, well, they're paying for it with the firm, they're paying for it with Afterpay. That does not matter. The point is, you're supposed to already financially cover your flight and your lodging. It doesn't matter how you pay for it, it should already be paid. There is no reason, if you're traveling with a group, that somebody's like, oh, well, I now don't have it. You knew you didn't have it. And it's like, oh, well, I was waiting for this check. Hold on. You know that you was about to put it through the wire? You should have just told the group, right? Because there's no reason for anybody to discover someone doesn't have a flight and someone does not have lodging when they are on the way to the vacation. To me, that seems like you mooching. Big no-no. And do people get onto hard times? Yes. But the issue is, you can't just place the hard time whenever you feel like it's like, oh, well, now it's too late. I have to tell you. This person wants this offered unto them, what they have not offered unto others. You want leniency, but you are not forthcoming about what was going on. And if you're not going to be forthcoming until it's the end, you're going to make that same behavior choice when we are abroad. Stay your ass home. No. If they're the type that's like, oh, nope, stay your ass home. Now, I'm also going to keep it honest with you. Most people cannot afford to kind of be like, oh, we're all getting our own separate lodging. We have to do an Airbnb, and we have to pay for it, right? We have to get as a group. The flights are going to be this cost if we all purchase it at the same time. All right. Then what you need to do is you need one person to get it. If you're going to go as a group, stop putting that shit in the fucking group chat. You need to meet up with each and every person all at one time and make sure all the money gets exchanged then at that point. If one person is using their credit card to book an Airbnb, you need to make sure that person is the most legit person, which is why I reiterated in the beginning, you need to know the people you are traveling with. So if you listened, these people are good, you can pick the most financially responsible person, put it on their credit card, and what you can do is give them the cash immediately. Pay your portion right there. And if everyone does not have their portion, then y'all need to postpone the trip. I know y'all not putting in PTO before y'all even finalize the dates for the trip. So you need to go ahead, meet up with everyone, make sure everyone at least has their flight covered and their lodging covered. And once they have that, have them give it to the financially responsible person in cash, and they will pay for it with a credit card. Now, when the financially responsible person, the budgeter, the financial planner, whoever it is of your group, you need to make sure they email you receipts, confirmations, and each of the documents have your name specifically. When I did it, because I can speak on it, I was broke. I was studying abroad in South Korea. I went with a friend, and we snuck off to Japan, all right? Here's what happened. First, we agreed on who was paying for what and how it was going to be paid. We agreed that I paid for the Airbnb, she paid for the flights, and we paid separately for our souvenirs and foods. Souvenirs and food. Very easy. What did we do? That same day we agreed on it, we picked a date. And once we picked that date, I looked at Airbnb. I showed her the Airbnb options. We agreed on one option. I reserved it through my account. I paid for it that day. Here in Japan, they require that all guests send their passport. So I knew it was legit because I had to take a picture of her passport and I had to send it. I had to take a picture of my passport, I had to send it. I then shared the confirmation email and location and manual with her. And if I'm not mistaken, Airbnb had the option to add in a guest, and they were supposed to receive the email as well. So all the confirmations, all the receipts proved I had paid. She has it, I have it, both of our names are on it. No one's touching the money. Now when it came to the flight, I had to give her my information, just like I needed her passport, she needed my passport, so we can fill out our plane tickets. She confirmed the plane tickets. I received an email confirmation of it with the receipt and all of the details needed so I could get my ticket, and we were set. And this was a month in advance. So there was no worrying on how we were going to get there, if one of us was going to be late on the flight. We both sat beside each other. Everything went smooth. And it can only go smooth when everyone is upfront and honest about how much money they got and how they were going to be able to pay for it. So yeah, you need to meet with everyone before you even leave the country. Now this is just a suggestion. Take it with a grain of salt if you want to. All of the people who are trying to travel and y'all agree on drinking, y'all all need to meet and hang out with each other for the day. Because what seems like a correlation, not necessarily causation, a lot of people don't really know each other and they don't know how each other are going to act in certain scenarios or excursions. So everything that happens abroad is a surprise to them. I recommend removing the element of surprise and just get to know everybody before you even get on the plane or the boat. Don't matter, you can get on a cruise. But the point is, if you're drinking, I think you need to be drinking how you would when you're abroad, right there where you live. And it's like, oh, well, they couldn't afford it. Oh, well, they need to. Because you need to figure out how they actually act when they're drunk, if they are clubbing. You do not want to be left with a bird-brained bitch once liquor gets in a system. That is a fucked up combination, right? Very dangerous, especially depending on who you ask and where they want to go. No, I don't recommend that shit one bit. But this doesn't only pertain to the club. It also pertains into how you would be during certain excursions and or your itinerary. You need to figure out, are these people, whoever you're going with, whoever your group is, you need to figure out, are they punctual people? Are they the type that's on CP time? Do they take forever to get dressed? Are they type A or type B? Do they like to argue with you or do they not like to argue with you? You need to have a test trip before you have the real trip. Because during the test trip, you're going to figure out whether or not y'all really going to mingle and if you really want to spend the money to do so. Now, that's for people who got a little bit more to spend, right? You don't necessarily have to leave your home. If one of the people wants to offer up their house as lodging and simulate how it would be like staying in an Airbnb where people have to share rooms and share a bathroom, you should try that while you're at home than you would abroad, right? A lot of people try to do the, oh, well, it's just because we're abroad, so I'll take it for now. No, you're going to be even more agitated. You would be mad if you spent hundreds of dollars to book an accommodation where you cannot use the bathroom for 2 hours when you need to because somebody is hogging it up. You would be pissed. You would be very peeved off if you pay for an accommodation and you can't sleep because the person beside you snores and or they have to have the TV on all the time and you can't sleep with the TV on. All of these things matter. Now, if you got your own accommodation in your own flight, it don't. Now, when you're doing excursions, it does. To sum it all up, just know who you're going with and understand the bullshit that they come with. That's it, and I'll see you around.